Hello and welcome to Afield here on RivalCast Media. My name is Sayomara, and this week I have a full house of guests tonight. Yes, they're all stalking and taunting me, the motherfuckers. Yes, I am the man who actually showed up 2 weeks ago. Damn it, our special guest, hey! Mr. Stephen Dunn.
What's going on?
Coming in from the middle of nowhere. Apparently you've been trapped in the Twilight Zone. I'm guessing it's 2 a.m. and the bullet has hit the bone. Mr. Scott Alvarado.
I can't name a second song from that band. That's always a trivia question, and I cannot name like the B-side to that single. It's awful.
Wait, what's the song?
It's Twilight Zone.
It's by Golden Earring. Yeah,
they have one other song. That's a really freaky video too. Like
they have two songs.
They do. That's a trivia question I can't ever remember. They do have another one.
Radar Love. Jeez.
Yes, thank you. And that would be a shot.
How can you not know Radar Love?
Because I've repressed the memory of it.
As you probably should, really. I mean,
well,
I can't really give a lot of good reasons why you would want to hang on to Radar Love.
Name a third
Golden Earring song. You really
no, they didn't have any other ones. I swear.
I don't think there was.
Radar Love's the only one you'll ever hear on the radio.
Well, you'll hear Twilight. The reason why I know Twilight Zone is Art Bell used to play that all the time during the Coast to Coast AM.
Oh, KRNA used to play that song a lot too in Iowa City. I used to do that a lot watching my class.
They would play that in the middle of the day too.
They do.
Yeah, which I always thought was kind of strange. You know, they completely changed their format too. Like they went to a general music station. Yeah.
That's done.
Okay, so now we can't make this a Twitch highlight because we just lost a half an hour on either side of this. So, good to know. Thank you, Don.
Wait, what did I do?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm just here reading the chat about TK.
TK.
Telekinesis.
Oh, telekinesis.
I don't know why they brought it up, but I after hearing the news about them bringing back the X-Files, so I've always wanted to actually sit down and watch all the episodes. So I'm about halfway through season 1 right now.
Yeah.
And after 2 days, because I got a lot of time, and so then they start mentioning TK, and it's like I was just watching the one yesterday about the pyrokinetic dude that was setting all the British nobility on fire.
Yeah, why not?
Heroic. He wasn't even the villain.
I was gonna say, this sounds like the plot to V for Vendetta or the second Sherlock Holmes movie.
Yeah, but no psychic stuff, right?
No psychics? You can talk about psychic stuff. I don't have any.
No, I mean in the story. I mean, V for Vendetta had no psychic stuff, and I didn't know about the Sherlock Holmes had that because Arthur Conan Doyle was into that stuff.
The British in the turn of the 18th to the 1900s were kind of into all they're the ones who were obsessed with fairies and all that.
True, very true. What's that?
So, I was gonna say. So, the topic for tonight, we didn't really have topics, but I did. Since we brought you back, I figured we'd talk about artificial intelligence tonight. Because I've been meaning to kind of pick your brain about artificial intelligence and are the robots actually going to kill us all? And I know this is his favorite topic of Scott's, so hoping that he would show up and that you would show up and Porkcop would show up. And we know, Porkcop being in Hawaii, being in the one safe place from the robots, we'd also have an opinion on these things.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, I'm hoping they get it for me one day.
Yeah. Make up for all the lack of normal intelligence?
Yeah. Well, that's what my wife tells me, so I'm just hoping that she's right.
Yeah.
Wait, someone on chat says I'm supposed to say shit the bed. Okay.
You don't have to. You don't actually have to say everything that the chat doesn't. Your chat is not in charge of your life.
Okay, just checking. Okay, anyways.
I think actually Scott said Skype did that, not to say it.
Man, Skyping it, saying it. Come
'Cause
on,
I don't
Scott.
think
No,
I think
these are-
Scott is no longer with us at this moment, is he?
Who
What?
knows?
He's gone. Where did he go?
Skype took a crap on him. That's what he was telling you.
Ah,
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
can't follow.
well-
It's too tricky. They're asking me about
there's too many. There's too many
They're asking
streams.
me about psychic powers and my favorite colors, and I don't know, man.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with our. Okay, what I've been wanting to ask you about, Steve, since you're the intelligent one of us, and that you got the background in computer pro. Do you think artificial intelligence is possible in the sense that we will eventually have, like, say, in the next 20 to 30 years, have a functional artificial intelligence, not a emulation of intelligence, which is what we have very effective copies of now.
Like it's conscious.
Yes, like something that is.
Robot?
Yeah, let's go with that.
No,
No, why not?
because we don't know what the mind is. So how can we simulate? Or even if we successfully do it, how do we know? Because we couldn't actually do a successful comparison,
Okay.
right? It's like the zombie problem, right? Like, what if it appeared totally conscious? But if you don't know what it is, then how can you gauge it, right? So no, that's not a engineering question. That's like a psychological one, or even like possibly like a philosophical or spiritual one. You know.
So why are we so
I would
convinced
say-
that we? I was gonna say. So why are people always so worried about artificial intelligence?
Because it doesn't have to be real to still screw you up.
So what you're saying is,
Hence zombies.
Yeah, a lot. You know, like all it needs to do is take control of stuff, right? It doesn't have to be. That's even worse, right? Like it doesn't have to be Terminator.
Mhm.
You know, if it's not aware of what it is, you know, if it's just a really advanced computer program and it still is manning all the guns and nukes, it's still pretty spooky,
and
right?
just because people worry about artificial intelligence because they don't want a computer to take over everything and basically try to control the world. But if we can put computers in control of everything and some person inputs those commands, it's still equally bad.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's equally bad if it chooses those commands, like it's like that computer in war games or something. I mean, if it chooses those things purely from like a game theoretical perspective, and it's like, well, blow them up. It's still bad. I mean, even if it's just applying a dumb algorithm or even an advanced algorithm that's not conscious. I mean, so all the real worries about the AI and stuff is really fundamentally about people's worry about the fact that they're being replaced by technology, which they are. We all are. I mean, it's really kind of what it's about, because I don't think most people are really worried about, like, what was the evil Data on Next Generation? There's Data and his brother.
Yeah, his brother Lore.
Yeah. Lore, that's right. I forgot his name. Lore. You don't have to. That's just kind of the story version of the real worry, right? Which is that we're going to be replaced, takes us away from our position of importance, and then turns against us.
So, I mean, but economics says that suddenly you have free up a large pool of, available resources and humans. You put that to use in a different way. What do people do then?
How the hell what are you going to, look, that's cool. It's a cool idea. But people have finite lifespans. They have finite amounts of information they can learn, even when they want to. This has been studied, right? So we'll look at one example. If you've trained your whole life to be some particular kind of technician, say, and you get replaced, you don't have time to relearn. You just now have no value, right? Or let's say you're working at McDonald's and now all the robots, it's like McDonald's is all automated. Where are you going to go? You're not going to just get magically trained. Like that's where your skill levels are for the most part capped. Like you're not in the big leagues, right? Those people are just out. They're gone, right? And unless you have an interest in maintaining some kind of large social welfare, you're just basically telling those people to go screw themselves, right? Which is why.
Well, there is an argument that says that if we automate all of society, the purpose of doing so is that we can basically say, okay, now let's use that, let's remove that burden on people and make this Wall-E world.
Yeah,
like
human
not
nature,
Walmart, but
human nature sure loves that. No, it's that's not going to work. People are going to go nuts. One, people are going to need stuff to do. Two, people are going to have to going to need excuses to lord their power over other people. You know.
Well, I mean, you'll always have. I mean,
totally
even with
vision
computers.
drives.
Well, even with computers, you're eventually going to have an elite class that is above the normal class, just as you do now.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, the long-term prognosis for people that are either on the left of the bell curve or under-skilled is they're doomed. You know, quite frankly, like we're going to just automate those people away. If Apple could sell a really efficient way to kill them, people would be buying it. You know.
Wow.
I mean, seriously, right? I mean, that's the end goal of this is the obliteration of the poor.
Okay, so Porkchop, I'm throwing this at you because you come at this from the other side of things. Like, what do you say? So robots replace most of the low-end jobs, your truck drivers, your McDonald's workers. What do those people do after that?
Well, that's actually pretty. I mean, we've been doing it for years. I mean, we've been moving people out of the factories and things like that already. And so eventually there's just going to be another low-end job for them to do. You know, either that or that's, welfare will get more people added on.
I mean, what are people good at that robots aren't good at? I guess is what it comes down to. Like,
and that's what it
and your average McDonald's worker, as Steve says, or your average truck driver, would be able to do.
Right. But that's the other thing, too, is now, you're saying that these people have no value, which I understand where you're coming from. But now that they have no value, then now they're cheaper than a robot.
He has a point.
No, I'm meaning, no, that's...
I think your point, Dunn, is that it's, in the long term, you'd rather have a robot that all you have to do is, buy the hardware, shove in the software, and then you're done.
Don't put my values onto this, because I think fundamentally in the future people are going to have to make a very deliberate choice to back things that are human-centric and human-valued, as opposed to things that are purely the most efficient. I think that's something we're going to have to deliberately make a decision on. What I'm saying is that is what the economics of it is going to drive, right? Especially for when we have a case of something like, like a truck driver is a really good example, because that's something where if you have a self-driving car, you can just plug in a location. You don't need a truck driver. I mean, they're just at that point they're just unnecessary. In fact, the alternative. You say that, but you still need somebody on the truck because the robots break down, things like that. You're still going to need somebody there to make to handle those things when it happens. Well, you're going to need people that can repair the machine, right, when it goes wrong. But you probably won't need a person on there the whole time. I mean, you'll ease off, but eventually you won't even have those people, right? You'll have people around. You'll have people around.
Well, I'm saying you don't understand trucking, because they won't allow a truck to sit there and stop. It's got to go. If your robot's down, you better damn well drive it there, is what I'm telling you. That's the way trucking works.
No, I'm saying that's the way trucking might very well work that way. But there's no self-driving trucks, right?
No, I understand.
Right now, but looks like we're about 20 years from there being self-driving trucks. I mean, that's the technology we're working on.
What I'm saying is I understand the notion that the truck has to get there, but if suddenly you've cut out all the labor and all the extra costs associated with having human people working all the time, who knows, right? It changes the entire way the business operates, right? You could very well have a truck temporarily go down in the time it takes somebody to get maintenance out there, fix it, and then send it on its way, right?
I mean, the advantage of a self-driving truck is you don't have to you can run 24 hours. As long as you have fuel, you can run. Where a human truck driver...
Also, there's no cost associated with the human labor, right, for the driver.
But I think Porkchop's right to a point, though.
I think you're also failing to realize that nobody. You're already saying that people aren't comfortable with AI, right?
Totally.
And that's what I'm saying. So people aren't going to trust it. So they're not going to allow just trucks to run on the road by themselves. At least not at first.
Not at first. That's exactly what I was saying. Is that
you're going to need, it's going to have to get proven, and that's going to take a long time because people are untrusting.
I agree. But
and what's also throughout the computing that truck drivers in some states are unionized, and unions tend to be pretty resistant to actually, these kind of
That'll be
technologies.
that'll be a fun one because that'll happen eventually.
It's a good thing I have nothing to add to this conversation whatsoever.
Well, I mean, the question is like we're talking about AI in general and just how, how does AI affect us? I mean,
and not artificial insemination, okay, Scott?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying in the long term, people are going to have to deliberately choose whether or not they want to support human beings, right, and make these sort of deliberate choices to be supportive of human beings, or move further down this path of constant automation. I think eventually you're going to start to reach a point where we're already starting to hit it, right, where automation just is taking away more than it's giving back, right? It's one thing to say, well, okay, this has changed, we'll move these people into this position, but that's coming from more like this sort of industrial automation, right? This old-fashioned, when automation really is kind of in full swing and with sort of advanced knowledge systems and all this other stuff. The people that are going to get replaced is going to be a larger and larger amount of people, and the ease with which they're replaced is going to increase. So I'm just saying that dynamic that's going to accelerate, and that dynamic is going to change. We're going to have to choose to continue on that path and find something to do with these excess labor, or we're going to have to sort of choose to keep people working, right?
We're killing all our wildlife, so we can just put them out there for sport, right?
There's plenty of people that would enjoy that, I think.
I really, I don't think we have to make that choice until we start replacing jobs people want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, think about it. Like people who create art. All of a sudden, we have artificial intelligence that somehow can create art. Nobody who values art really gives a shit. When you talk about the trucking industry, unless you're part of the trucking industry, you really don't give a rat's ass about a truck driver, and you really have this preconception in your mind about a truck driver, which is probably true in a lot of ways. But it doesn't really affect you. But until it comes to the point of something you actually want to do, so, I don't know, a lot of these menial things that we use it for, like tech support, or automated phone calls, or, I don't know, fucking picking out blemish onions out of a line as they come off of a truck. These types of menial things, nobody really cares about the stuff we don't want to do anyhow. I think
what about people that they depend on these kinds of tasks because they don't have the ability to do other things, right?
Well, these tasks, okay, so like sorting onions off an assembly line as they come in off the back of a truck, right? I mean, you can pay people to do this, but the machine actually does this with utmost efficiency, more effectively, and much faster than we could ever pay people to do, and it costs you almost nothing. Until you have somebody who has a skill set that is so unreachable or so imprecise, that has so much imprecision into it. And I'm thinking of something like the people you pay to create tastes and perfume scents, right? There's like these 15 people in the world whose apparently sense of smell or palate is so well developed that these major corporations pay them ungodly sums to taste test and develop flavors or perfume additives and things that...
Don't you just want to get trapped in the elevator with them and just let it rip?
I don't think I have to get stuck in an elevator. I could just walk down the street and let them just, lose their lunch. But those types of things that, until then, everything else really is throwaway labor, let's be honest. I mean, most of the things that we have a machine for is because you can't do it by hand, or it's so labor intensive you don't want to do it by hand. Trucking is one of those things that the demand for trucking has increased, I don't know, year over year, like 25%, and it's not stopping. The problem is we have fewer and fewer people willing to be truck drivers. The standards are becoming more and more stringent on a truck driver themselves as to what we require from DOT regulation in the United States to drive. But we have fewer and fewer of them to fill. We have fewer working bodies to fill these jobs in general with, but fewer and fewer into trucking, and nobody wants to go into trucking. The problem is the trucking industry now has demand, has no bodies, so they need to create demand, so they increase salary and wage. The biggest rash I've seen is non-English speakers. So notice, as long as you can pass the driver's examinations and you can read signs, there's nothing that says English has to be a primary or a secondary language for you to operate a truck.
Yeah.
A lot of truck drivers have a really divisive issue about that. And that's within their own realm of labor, right? I mean, you would think they'd be all pro. More people drive trucks. Hell yeah, it's a great way to make a living, right? But even then, it's not so much. And so it made waves. This week I believe it was Freightliner released one of their concept truck of the future. I don't know if you guys mentioned it, since I'll mention that Skype sucks.
No, we didn't.
I've been reading like articles about this for about a year and a half, so I don't know about this one specifically, but this stuff's been out there.
Yeah, Freightliner released it. It's at a big trucking trade show. And is it really functional? No, it sits in front of a crowd and kind of says these are things we want to do with it. Here's the things that'll be there. It looks like a basic semi truck now in a Class 8, but it's different. They're also talking about incorporating more technology, the after treatment equipment that has to be on there now is mandated. But all those things, and one of them is an operator-less system, and there's merit to that. And part of the conversation is having one on-off type assembly that would drive us. So like I-35 would be a place that we could run automated trucking, because it would run from Canada all the way through the middle of the United States to Mexico. And yeah, there's a lot of questions about that. But, for people who think, no, absolutely not, I would stop and say, how many accidents have the Google cars been involved in? Right? 0 that we know of.
Well, I read there were 2, and each of them were caused by people hitting the car, not the car hitting them.
Correct.
Yep.
I mean, how many of these did they cause? 0. And that amazing. And I don't know a trucker who's driven more than 2 years who doesn't have some type of violation. And as long as these Google cars have been employed, which is about 2 years now, to have a pretty clean record is amazing. And whether or not it becomes anything, just to say that the technology is there at this time.
Well, in my understanding, a lot of the thing about driving turns out to be not a terribly difficult thing. I think where you'll run into problems is when you start running into multiple, different systems. Like Google has its own driving car, and Chevy has theirs, and Honda has their driving system. And once you have different systems interacting in different ways, then you'll start having automated cars, right? Because right now we're just dealing with people, and people being people are flawed and people make mistakes.
Well, but I actually think that's the bigger problem.
Yeah.
You have a million different people making a million different decisions in different ways and reacting in different ways, and instead of having like 5.
5 different systems. No, I mean,
yeah. It's extremely predictable then.
No, it was funny. There was an account, like Google brought their car up to Congress, and basically there's one way to fuck up the car, and that's basically to hit the emergency ejector switch. And, some congresswoman, I don't remember who it was, but basically, first thing she does is she pushed the big red button, and she's like, oh, it didn't run very good for me. It's like, yeah, you hit this fucking button, right? The first thing you did in there. Of course it didn't run very good.
No wonder she's a congresswoman.
Yeah. But my understanding is, like, getting back to the trucks, I mean, that where they really want to implement this stuff first and foremost, it's like in mines, like big silver mines and things like that.
Which I would probably agree.
Because it's an isolated system, first and foremost, and you're also dealing with, basically you want those trucks going 24/7, because we're strip mining a mountain away to get ore. But yeah. Sorry, I just figured I'd interject that. I don't think you're wrong, though, as far as, like, is it more systems, make it more precise? I think what will eventually happen is if you do have, like, a corridor, say, like, our major interstate highways, 35, 80, the ones we're sitting on here in Iowa, obviously others in different parts of the country, but if you have, like, those major corridors are known for automated trucking, and once you get off of those, you have more, traditional man trucking, there'll be basically service stations that pop up all over the place just to service that kind of stuff, or they'll be converted from what, current systems that are dealing with, trucks right now.
And then in 20 years, I'll be bitching about the automated trucking industry.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously transitioned from horse and carriage to the automobile fleets we're using now. It's not like these things large transitions happen. It's just how we deal with them that matters.
Well, but I would argue that was a bigger change than what this will be, right?
Yeah, we don't have to hire people to pick up manure out of the streets anymore.
Well, the horse and buggy era, right? There weren't paved streets, so to speak, right? Cobblestone was a high-end road surface, so we had to recreate the entire infrastructure to use this. We realized the wooden wagon wheels we put on the first automobiles didn't work too well in the ruts. So a level surface was required, then a surface, the compounds had to change, and the tires. I mean, everything changed with this whole system, and now we're just really taking a person out of the picture, letting a robot drive. I mean, it works, fairly well for the airline industry, right? I mean, you really have to force a plane to crash, as we saw this week. It literally will take one person overriding the controls, forcing the plane to crash, because the plane would not want to crash itself. And that's something.
I mean,
about
there's always been the stories. Well, there's always been stories like non-commercial flights, basically commercial flights or passenger or package jets, for UPS or FedEx, so like those various services. They'll fly through crazy weather because they don't have the same FAA restrictions as passenger jet has. Oh, fog! We only can land with instruments. I'm okay with that. I don't have any issue. We know exactly where that runway is.
Mm-hmm.
So. How often when was the last time you heard about a jet full of UPS packages that crashed? I mean, to my knowledge, I honestly don't remember it ever happening.
Just
FedEx. I don't either. No. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Someone somewhere didn't get their flashlight.
I'm willing to bet there are probably more of those planes flying in the air than there are, normal commercial flights flying every day, or probably a very comparable number. Based on when I was in Memphis and watching those planes taking off every minute.
Yeah, well, to a lot of places, and even out here. I mean, UPS has some planes, but most of them are actually, they just package extra space on commercial flights.
Well, yeah.
That's why you got to pay for your bag now, because you're competing with UPS and FedEx, and USPS for that matter.
Yeah, I should bring non-mail on sometime. He could tell us about all the depravities of our postal service.
I would love to hear about the depravity of the postal service.
No, you don't. Believe me.
Part of me thinks that it's going to be far less depraved than what I think. I just like the idea. It's like the setup for like a Ballard novel. It's just like the depravity of the post service. It's just the possibilities are limitless.
You want to talk about it's because it is a company. I know it. They actually have to make money. It is a company. Believe it or not.
Wait. Well, I'm not so sure about that second part, given their current financial situation.
Well, I understand that. I mean, they are supposed to make a profit, but not, but we'll go beyond that. But they really want to put a lot of computers in instead of people, but they cannot. Because the government won't let them, and the way they do it, they always screw it up, because it's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? So they have to have like 1,000 meetings, to decide what to do. And by the time that they get it, they all agree on something. The technology's old.
Yeah, interesting.
So welcome.
So
to
is that
office.
intentional though, or is that, do you think it's actually a function of that? Like they really can't be replaced that effectively by robots?
No. They definitely can. I don't want to even say by robots, but just by computer stuff in general. Basically, you could just have somebody load the mail.
Automation, I guess, would probably be a better word for it.
I understand. But I'm just saying. But I mean, they already can do it. It's just it's a function of the government being not good at making decisions.
Being inefficient. Yeah.
Well, inefficiency of government is more of a feature than a bug, I think. I don't want the government being too efficient. Especially given the things it decides on. I'd rather it takes a little bit of time for the process be a bit slow. But that's just me.
What you're saying, like, I think you're costing too much to our healthcare system, Mr. Dunn. I believe you've lived enough of your life. Here's our very efficient suicide method. Why don't you just go check that out?
I prefer the government to be like the council of tree ants. I just want them to sit and, like, make noise at each other for a while before they have to decide anything important. Because in the meantime, anything that I have any doubts about will probably sort itself out in the meantime, Or if it's like deciding, should we go, like, attack somebody? I'd rather that kind of take a little while to decide, or anything that might actually adversely affect my life or lives of people around me. I'd rather that take a little while to happen. And then when it does happen, I like if it takes a while before it gets implemented. That's bonus points, like Obamacare. That still is just a train wreck, which I'm happy with. Right? I don't want that to be efficient. I want it to be terrible and drag out for decades. That'd be great. All this stuff, But
So it can cost us more money?
It's going to cost us a bunch of money anyways. You can't get away from that. It's going to bleed money.
Yes,
regardless.
you can, by making things more efficient.
But can you make healthcare more efficient? I think that's one of the lessons of Obamacare. It's like efforts to make. I mean, obviously there are probably efficiencies in the system to be made, but just like trying to solve this problem by pure efficiency seems to be a bit of a fool's errand.
Well, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying there, and it's
Which it probably always is a bit of a fool's errand to think that you can solve a problem with efficiency. But
right. But see, then this is where I want the government to be efficient, to go, you know what? It's a fool's errand. let's go somewhere else and do something we can do something about.
I mean, there are things that government, there's things a big clunky government is good at, like national defense. Let's focus on that rather than all these other like social program things that clearly is not terribly good at.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
But I mean, hey, just
that's
because...
the problem is they think everybody thinks the exact same way like them. But we don't.
Well, the problem becomes...
I'm not saying we all think like me. I'm just saying we don't all think the same. And so when you do social programs, you can't gear it towards one
Hey,
one
the
set
50-year war on poverty has been a complete success, except for all the people still on poverty.
Yes.
Which happens to be about the same percentage as it was in 50 years ago.
But
But total
the
success.
Illuminati actually want poverty to go away.
Why would the Illuminati want the poverty to go away?
I said implying they want it to go away.
Oh. Yeah.
Poor people work to the advantage of the government as long as they have enough people that are wealthy to get things done.
I don't really like the whole idea, though, that, well, just because we're giving people money that they're going to vote one or another. Because clearly that's not the case. Because, yes, certain populations do seem, people have, some people are swayed by, hey, I'm getting this program from the government, I'm not going to vote this way. But at the same time, I mean, living here in Iowa City, I hear plenty of times like, gosh, I have this family member and I take all this money from the government, they vote Republican. How could they possibly vote Republican if they're taking all that money from the government? Like, I mean, so, there's some correlation, but I think Republicans overplay the whole, like, I'm getting, government handouts lead to automatic votes. I mean, I don't know, if you're looking at it from a purely self-interested standpoint, I guess maybe. I mean, that's definitely possible that, if we're going to, certain populations are going to say, hey, I'm going to take this handout as long as they're given to me. But I think voting is more a pattern of what I've always done, more than it's really a set of, like, what's in my best interest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but you got to think, too, the people who are usually on public assistance are not the people that are voting, honestly.
No, there's truth in that. I mean, a lot of people...
I think a lot of them would vote, more liberal and things like that, but they're not the ones that actually go out and vote.
But they're not voting that way because it's a public handout. They're voting that way because, well, what else would I do? I mean, this is what my parents did. Therefore, this is what I'm going to do. People are, we'd like to think that people are above that kind of behavior, but realistically, people are creature of patterns. Most people don't really. I mean, what is voting? Voting is basically like something like most people don't spend that much time thinking about it because it's a pain in the butt. It's not really that interesting most of the time. Like, oh, generic candidate A and generic candidate B. Well, I don't know. I mean, even when it's contentious, are we really getting that different a result? I mean, I'm not a big fan of the whole Republicrats, Demopubs kind of thing, but at the same time, both sides generally speaking, have legitimate cases. Do I agree with one side more than the other? Yes, I do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think the most dangerous thing is that both sides think they're right and both sides have legitimate arguments for why they want to do what they do. Do I support the other side? Not really, because I don't think in the long run, commanding powers kind of economy ever works that well, and history has ever not really been very friendly to that. But nonetheless, I mean, their motives are of a good mindset that they want to help people. They want to make lives of people better. And I don't know. I mean, I can't
No,
say
I
really.
know what you're coming from,
Yeah.
and and it is, and I mean, we are definitely a pendulum society where we will strongly vote towards one side, and then we're bored with that, and now let's start voting towards the other. I mean, it happens
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
So neither are right, nor are they wrong, and the reason they're neither right or wrong is because you don't have a group of people that's all one way or all the other. You know what I mean? If we had people that were all left thinking, then the left would be right all the time. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Not
But
to,
we don't-
not to interrupt.
And I don't even want to say the far left. I'm just talking about
Yeah.
left. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about or far right. We're not talking nut jobs here. We're just talking normal left and right.
Well, and I don't think most people would characterize as far left and far right are really far left or far right. I mean, that's not to say there aren't, literally communist lesbians of the Democratic Party. I mean, these people exist, just like there are neo-Nazi Republicans out there who believe that all the horrible things that you generally associate with Republicans is true about those people too. I mean, these things do exist. It's just, are those the majority of people that fit into either party? No, it's
Right.
not.
No,
Even,
it's not.
And when we
See, people, he's telling you I exist. I really do exist.
you did vote for the Constitution Party twice.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that not something you want to put out there?
Oh, no, I do. I'm completely open with that.
You gotta say, well, this is the election that'll decide whether Obamacare has real or not. Iowa's a swing state. Well, let's throw our vote away on the third party.
Wasn't a throwaway. I voted in favor of eliminating 3/5 of the federal government. Party platform.
Though I will say, one of the things, I think we've touched on this in the past, is the whole I've definitely become much less in the last 2 years since the 12 election. Much less of a person who believes in the lesser of two evils kind of arguments, and much more of a person you have to have real reason to vote for somebody.
Is that
Isn't it
because you're
because their
entrenched?
name is on the ballot? You have that real reason. It's the only reason you need, right?
No, it's not so much that. It's just, I don't think it's a good reason to support. You can't, at the end of the day, if you're always just voting for the lesser of two evils, you're not really making a choice. You're like, well,
Right.
you're not being active. You're not thinking about what you're doing. You're just saying, well, that guy's a big meanie, therefore I don't have to think anymore.
Dunn must be back.
I wasn't even tapping it very hard. I was being real quiet deliberately.
That's what she said.
There is no.
I'm sorry to hear that.
There's no level of subtlety with that keyboard.
Okay, well listen, then I want you to blame Steve Jobs, because it's just a plain old MacBook typing
Okay.
away. That's all I got here.
Okay.
Anyways, I know you guys went off that discussion, but that's actually what I was originally meaning to say about that is that fundamentally the upper classes, including the political class, has no interest fundamentally in the well-being of the people in their charge, except to the extent that's necessary to keep them from sort of challenging their positions of power, right? I mean, and that's not like some conspiracy theory. I mean, that's just kind of how it works, right? Because you only want to spend as much money and as much effort as necessary to keep this stuff going, right? The real dynamic is that of, historically, has almost always been that of a predatory class of the ultra-wealthy and the ultra-connected versus the population at large, right? And that dynamic kind of can get better or worse depending on how much people are willing to fight against it. And at the current point in time, we have a particularly predatory, exceptionally predatory upper class, right? And that dynamic is one that doesn't really care about left or right at all. You know, that distinction kind of fades away when there's enough money and power that those issues no longer matter, you know? It's like voting is important, but it's also important to understand that there's an entire system and an apparatus that gets those people, usually two, in front of you to choose between. And if they don't fit within the narrow confines of what's approvable within that apparatus, they're never going to be there in the first place, which is why you're never going to see the kind of change you think you need or want to see, you know? That's why no matter who you vote for, left or right, they always seem to be someone kind of in the middle and real waffling and never do anything, you know? This whole system is designed in that way. You know, I mean, it's useful and important, but people that try to pretend like it's the most absolute important good, I think, are mistaken, you know?
Well, Churchill had it right. It's the worst system except for all the others.
Sure, but I mean, but that doesn't mean you have to ignore the issues with the system, right? I mean, it's not like I'm asking for a king. I'm just saying it's important to understand that there needs,
I think
in addition
Churchill's...
to the checks and balances inherent in like a government system, there's also the necessary social checks and balances of the sort of predatory upper class, very small upper class versus, the population at large,
Well, apparently, I mean, if you read like a little bit of Obama, I mean, a lot of what Obama thinks Obama gets kind of up on his
why
high
would you
horse.
even do that? Why would you even do that?
I know. It's
Obama?
like, okay, so what Obama thinks that Republicans should totally be on his side because he is just a 19th century Teddy Roosevelt Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Who really thinks he's playing a game of Miss Pac-Man because it's something he can win that's shiny with a pink fucking bow on it.
It had cutscenes, don't forget.
But he thinks that like, I'm just an old school Republican at heart. Therefore, the Republican, it's the classic, Reagan line though. Well, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. Obama's probably like, look, this is what the Republican Party used to be. Let me be clear that I'm just representing what you are. Why are you denying your own identity? So, I don't know. Am I wrong? And I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt was very much a progressive in much of the modern sense of the word. Very anti-corporatist in a very political way. Environmentalism to obviously, like you'd say, the Roosevelt kind of level of environmentalism is more acceptable than kind of the crazy republicanism, but that's one of those things. I don't know.
On a side note, maybe I just have a really good mic. Maybe that's it. Maybe the mic is just so good it picks this up.
Yeah. So what do you support about Baroness's politics that is appealing to you?
Well, I support Friday nights, parties, raves, also independence, people establishing their own nations, and just general sort of chaos and anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
the
appeal.
music is good. They have good booze, maybe cool drugs, lots of dancing. It'll be fun.
I mean, I think the appeal of, spaceflight to me is the potential that eventually we'll all get off this rock. We can all set up our own planets, and then we can do whatever the heck we want. And, at that point, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're not, a strong central government isn't gonna, because there probably aren't, realistically. There probably aren't super advanced space, civilizations out there that are, trying to destroy the universe. Realistically, there are probably, like, equally less, a lot of the recent, technology suggests that, it might just be this current generation of stars that finally have enough heavy metals in them that we could have advanced civilizations. Because we haven't had enough stars blow up and create the previous couple of generations of heavy metals until, we're into 14 billion years. Yeah, the universe is old, but at the same time, if there wasn't anything to make civilization, you wouldn't have had civilization come to arise. Yeah, it doesn't. Typing a lot. It is what it is. So I don't,
I'm not even typing. Okay, look, brace yourself. I'm going to just hit a key, okay? Just wait. This is just, stop.
Yep.
Now you're faking. Now that's fake. Stop. I'm going to hit a key. There, I hit a key.
Okay.
Did you hear it?
Yes.
That was literally me touching. Look, here's again. There, I hit a key.
Yes.
That seriously is loud to you guys, because that is me. I don't type like some maniac. I'm not like hacking into the mainframe on some movie, or doing some furious flame. I just type at the keyboard like a normal human being. Do an approximation.
Is your microphone right on your keyboard then?
No, I'm holding my microphone up to my mouth.
Are you so blind you're looking at the screen really, and the mic's right there?
No, I'm leaning back.
I'm just teasing you.
I know. This is a serious question because I know you're teasing. I don't understand why it is that it's just so damn.
Why it's picking up? I don't know.
I don't either.
Problem in your old
Probably
place,
your
too.
sensitivity of your mic is a little high, is it?
That
But I
might
would.
be.
If it wasn't there, it wouldn't be you.
This is
Thanks.
true. This is why we can only bring you on so often, because we'd get bad iTunes reviews if we had you on all the time.
Mr. Dunn, I would recommend one of two things to do with a replacement microphone when you have money. Either get a ribbon-based mic or get a condenser.
Well, see, I have a condenser mic right now.
Mm-hmm. And it should have better off-axis rejection, but if you use a ribbon microphone, it by its very nature is rejects almost everything else off-axis. Your on-axis point is very, very narrow on a ribbon mic.
I'm looking at getting a ribbon mic. Thanks. Yeah, because I have a condenser right now.
And most of those, especially if it has a cardioid pattern, will be much better for that. But most of the condensers, because they're going to amplify some of those things, but they're tuned a little bit better. There's more money that goes into making that type of magnetic coil system. But if you can find a decent ribbon one, you can still use an analog one, and that it will cut down so much more.
Will do. Thanks. Yeah, I'll look into it. Yeah, because I have this kind of cheap Audio-Technica, well, cheap for a mic, Audio-Technica condenser mic I talk into, what I use for like singing practice. But, yeah, I don't know why it just picks up everything. Weird.
Cool. Well, on that happy note, we never actually got on to what we've been doing. So, Scott, you've been gone for a little while. What's up with your life that kept you away from us for the last month?
Listening to Dunn type.
Yes, yes.
It's not the rainy season, so I need something else to put me to sleep. It's like his little pitter-patter against the window.
Thanks.
I can put this.
Little
I can make like a 2-hour loop of that typing noise and just put that out on the stream.
I'm sure that'll get us up for like the Webby Podcast of the Year award.
Probably.
The sounds of Dunn typing.
Are the Webbies still around? Are they still a thing?
I believe so. I mean, like all things of the internet, all memes never die.
Yeah, my brother, before we had our near fist fight recently, back when we were still talking, he was recently bringing up the oldest meme he could remember, which was Mr. T ate my balls. And I think that's about as old as I can remember one, too. That was like before they had a word for it, or people like got weird about sharing them. I'm trying to think if there's anything older. Have you heard it? What's the oldest one you remember?
Oh, my.
Oldest meme.
I mean, I think, there's Keyboard Cat. That goes back a long way.
That does go back. I don't think that goes back as far as Mr. T ate my balls.
No, I've never even heard of Mr. T ate my balls.
That's old. It's old. It's real old. Like, most of the websites are dead now. I mean, this was back even like pre-GeoCities, I think.
Ouch.
But it spread. It spread. Yeah, just like a horrible disease. Let me find a date for it.
Let's be honest. I mean, memes are really the chlamydia of the internet.
Yeah, I think that's being kind of generous to chlamydia, which has a very sort of fertile microbiology.
I would say it's more like the herp, because you can make the clap go away, but the herp, it comes back every month to hang out with you again.
It has a know your meme content here. First one from 1996.
And?
Well, that's its origination date of Mr. T ate my balls. It was 1996.
Oh, I thought this was just like of all memes they've tracked.
No. This is just I don't think
they don't list it chronological.
They should.
I'm gonna say, what's the first fucking meme
they
list?
I don't know. Know your meme makes me feel dirty just visiting there, and this is from a guy that goes to 4chan regularly.
What about the Tub Girl or Goatsy? Those are the first ones I remember.
I don't know. Let me look. I don't know.
Those can't be as old as 96.
Those aren't memes though. Those are sort of shock images. Those are a whole other thing. Let me look it up on Wikipedia here. 1999. Goatsy CX. 1999. Yeah. So Ate My Balls was from 96. So Yeah, and literally it's just two pictures of Mr. T started by a University of Illinois student, Nahal Patel, who all he did was Photoshop "Damn them balls is good" in one photo, and "I pity the fool who don't like balls" in the other. But it's got an image, unique appearance, text, not a caption, but a text box, and it's also listed on Know Your Meme. So I'm going to count this as an official meme.
Okay. So is there something old? Does it give you a way to like sort memes by age?
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Oh, I can click 1996. Oh, wait, you can. Wait, no, you can just filter by. You can do a year filter. I'm going to go back to 95 and see if anything comes up.
Are you going to write a script to like go through the site and like sort memes by years and then come back to us a couple weeks from now?
I don't care.
That would be amazing.
I don't really care that much, but let me add it to my list.
List of things to do.
Well, I have a thing where I try to come up with 10 ideas a day.
Okay.
And they can be for anything. Sometimes they're just images that come into my head. Other times they're like story ideas or computer things. The point is not really that they're supposed to be good or I'm ever going to do them, though frequently I kind of pull stuff out and kind of triage it. But it's just, as long as you're coming up with ideas, even if some of them are bad, it makes it easier for the good ideas to come up. It's kind of to kill that mental filter about the stuff. You always want to say, no, that's no good, that's no good. We just have to kind of get over that. So it's just kind of a brain dump. But I try to do 10 a day. Yep.
So while Steve is looking for that, Scott, what have you been up to for the last month? If you say listening to Steve type, I'm gonna absolutely murder you next time I see you. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Please say it. Please say it. Please say it. Please say it.
I really don't want to deal with your dog because you're probably gonna inherit it to me. just to fuck with
On
you.
purpose.
Because you know my stance on animals indoors.
I think he's having trouble.
Yeah, well, Scott, Porkcop, what have you been doing for the last month?
Oh, well, to be honest,
Other
the
than
last
T-ball.
time... Yeah, that's about it. T-ball's been a big one, but actually the last time I missed was because I was working.
Yeah.
On a Sunday, which is very unusual. But you know how it is. Sometimes you just get busy.
Yeah, you get hammered, yeah.
Yeah, we got hammered, and I had to work the weekend, but they're all good.
Well, and especially like your kind of job, you got close to deadlines. It is what it is, right?
And some people really do like push it to the last second.
Well, procrastination is I think if you look at read Mox Weaver's treatise on bureaucracies. One of the things that comes out of that is the idea. One of the properties of bureaucracies is going to take us long. You tell people you have 3. And I think this is generally human nature. You tell someone they have 3 weeks to work on something. You know damn well that's not getting started till 2 weeks and 5.
Yeah.
They're gonna go. If it's something a job takes 3 days to do, they will do that. They will start it 2 weeks and 4 days later.
Yeah.
There's no sense.
No,
really
this was a government job, so
yeah.
So yeah. But other than that, just the regular stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing I haven't been playing much World of Warcraft lately. I've been playing Reign of Kings.
Reign of Kings. What's Reign of Kings about?
It's a sandbox. You build things, but it's set in medieval times.
Cool.
So when you show up, the only thing you got is some bandages, and a club.
Okay.
And you gotta basically, get some wood and get some stone and stuff like that and start building stuff up, and then, you can get more in depth and all that. And there is like a king of the island, and basically one of the goals is to try to be the king.
Okay.
So, but we have our own server, so there's only a few of us on there.
Is that the Fed Chat group, or is that
actually Crit Heads?
Crit Heads. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
but yeah.
No, it's Jag.
Jag and Hightower.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they're playing it right now on Twitch TV. So
nice.
As we talk, but it's fun. We're just they have servers that anybody can get on, like public servers.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you got to get in. It's like old school WoW as far as you have to be in a guild if you want to do anything. Because if you're not, you're gonna get killed. So, but it's pretty fun. I mean, something different more than anything. It's the best sandbox game I've played in a while.
Oh, that's good.
I didn't play like H1Z1 because I watched a little bit of it, and like it seemed like every 10 seconds you had to eat something or you died.
Yeah, I've been listening to Rez and Cold been playing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The way they make it sound, it just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
You can get kind of, it gets better, but at the same time, it just doesn't sound like something that's really fun to do.
Yeah, no, and like
I
there's
like
some other
my
ones out
games to
there.
actually be like fun.
Yeah. Well,
Man,
and that's the thing is like I get with sandboxes, they want it to take a while to do things.
Yeah.
They want it to be more
It's
like
very
real
logical.
life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a game still, so I don't want it to be exactly like real life. I want it to be semi-fast to do something. I mean, not just like, it took 1 hour to make a piece of wood into a plank. You know, yeah, in real life it would do that, you know, when you only have a saw, but come on.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't go that far into it, you know, as far as like making it that, I guess, that long. So it keeps your interest, you know, going. So.
Well, that's good.
Not...
I mean, because the problem with the gameplay, like when it says 1 hour later, you have completed one board. You will continue to work on your house for the next 3 weeks.
Yes.
Like,
so now you're talking about Worm Online.
Yeah.
And that is really how some of the sandboxes go, and I do not enjoy those.
Yeah, and that there's a gameplay needs some sort of you need that positive feedback to like, oh, I want to keep playing this because hey, look, I got the shiny.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's not supposed to be like super easy, but I mean, that's the thing is I think some of these sandboxes just go like out of their way to make it as hard as possible, like you say, to build something. And this one is not one where they have like a house, like I want to build a house, so I have to collect all the materials and then click build the house or whatever. This one actually, you just make like squares and stuff out of
what?
You
what game is this?
It's called Reign of Kings.
Okay, I'll look it up.
It's on Steam. I think it's in beta right now, and I think it's like $20.
Okay. That's the other problem with a lot of these sandbox games right now, like H1Z1, is like, yeah, it might not be a bad game, but at the same time, they're also like putting these things out so early. Like, yeah, you're gonna get a lot of negative results when you put something. You're basically playing a game in alpha, and they haven't really, if this was a mature game, we'd just say, okay, well, they would have worked through a lot of the bugs, but now we're seeing it in the development process. Well, you're gonna see it. I don't know. You're gonna get a lot more mixed result.
Right. No, and I get it, and they're trying to. That's the thing too, is they're using these betas, the the buy-in betas, as I call them. They're using them to tweak their game. You know what I mean? Like, oh, people are bitching about this. Let's take that out. You know what I mean? I don't think that's necessarily a great idea. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people who are into betas, and buying it, are really into the game, and they don't necessarily, they want the game built their way. That's why they're in.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good game. Because most people don't know what a good game is if they tried to build it themselves.
Well, there's a reason why there aren't very many good game developers. I mean, a lot of the game developers don't seem like they come out of the community. You get people, like the really good ones, have other backgrounds.
Right. And you understand what I'm saying there, is what I'm saying. These people think that they know how to build a game, and you build a game that's great for you.
And they know what they like. There's something
yeah.
different than knowing what you like and knowing how to make a game with mass appeal to a lot of different people.
Right. So, but that's part of the thing I don't like about the beta buy-ins, because I feel like they cater too much to these people, and now the games don't turn out that good. So, but I know that like H1Z1, I know they were talking about charging like $7 a month for it.
Well, it's meant to be an MMO. I mean, there was at one point they were kind of describing it like a replacement for the Star Wars Galaxies kind of people, because there's movement out there that really, really loves Star Wars Galaxies for
Yes.
reasons well beyond my understanding. Because from everything
Yes.
I heard, it was a really shitty game.
I played it, and I was a paying player, and it was
Okay.
It's I was just so I liked Old Republic, and I was really excited, and it was bad.
Well, this was Galaxies. This is the one. before
Oh,
Old
that's right.
Republic.
That's the older one. That's right.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the really bad one. Yeah, because Old Republic is still really bad. I forgot about Galaxies. Oh
Galaxies.
shit! Never played that one. I hear it's just unplayably just awful. It was.
I
They
mean, I
killed it.
never. Yeah, they killed it because they wanted to kill Old Republic.
Just real quick on a side note here.
Yes.
I actually literally have a timeline of internet memes here.
Okay. That was quick.
Roughly, I'm gonna probably put, depending on how we define it, Dancing Baby. Dancing Baby, 22nd of October, 1996.
So at the very birth of the internet.
Well, yeah. Now stuff goes. Oh, Ate My Balls goes back as early as 31st December 1995, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, we can go back a little bit further to Dysfunctional Family Circus, June 1995, if you remember Dysfunctional Family Circus.
So we're talking
Before
like webcomics almost at that point.
Yeah, before that, we start getting into some of the Usenet stuff, like Kibo and Biff, Godwin's Law, that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm not really going to count.
Godwin's Law is considered a meme?
No, well, when you get to the far early edge of this timeline, it gets a little ambiguous. I wouldn't count it as one, but I'm not going to count
how much
any
of that
of
stuff is even around anymore would be the other
Yeah,
part
I'm
of it,
not
right?
counting any of this Usenet stuff. If we go all the way back, I would probably Ate My Balls and Dancing Baby from about 1995-ish.
Okay.
So we'll say memes started back in 95, so I would have been like 12. Jeez Louise. And it just, another early one from 98, Bird is Evil.
So memes have been around longer than most of my students, is what you're
Yeah. Hamster Dance and Maddox were from 98. And then Tunic Tune 99. And then after, from around 99, 2000, they start to kind of take off. Like You're the Man Now Dog took off.
Yep.
And then from, yeah.
Your
All Your
Man
Basic-
Now Dog was a really weird website.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it?
And most of it was just shit.
It's
it
the
really-
internet.
It really was just a lot of shit. Like, occasionally you'd find, like, a good stream, or a couple of people would put out some nice stuff, but for the most part, it was really crap.
The Oh Really Owl is from 2003.
Though my
Sure.
favorite, I will say my favorite You're the Man Now run was, like, something like the Star Trek The Next Generation ones. Like, you know, Riker goes to play World of Warcraft and it shows like a screen, and then it's, you know, some surfer patch and he's sad now or something. Or there was a really good thread of MacGyver ones. Or, like, what is MacGyver gonna do? I don't know. This is really what I remember from You're the Man Now is random MacGyver memes.
Who's the man? Yeah, that was
I never went to those sites.
There was one for World of Warcraft. It showed up on WoW Insider at one point.
Oh, Real Ultimate Power.
You were just like, you don't have to go down the rabbit hole. Like, so,
Look,
I noticed. I remember you came over to our house one time. We were having a nice conversation, and you realized that you just got your new phone, and you could analyze the square tags. I forget what they're called right off the top of my head. And you're basically going through my mail and looking at all the different those square barcode tags. And finally, I'm like,
the QR code. The QR code.
QR.
Well,
and I'm like, Steve, are you gonna go?
Look, I didn't have any QR codes, and you did, and that makes it totally legit. I just wanted to see what it did. I
Yeah,
didn't have
see?
any QR
Okay,
code.
doing it
You did.
once, doing it twice, spending
had
an
to
hour and a half doing it, it was a
didn't-
bit much.
I didn't spend an hour and a half digging
You-
through your
you
trash
did.
can. Sure, it was like 45 minutes of digging through your trash, scanning QR codes. I
It was
just
my
needed to
recycling, not my trash can. I'll give you
Well,
more
so-
credit
okay,
than that.
That's
But
better. It's not as dirty. I just had to see what it did. I wanted to know what they did.
Could you figure it out after the first time?
Well, no, I
That's
wanted to
what I
see.
thought.
I wanted to see what each of them did. I mean, the concept itself is fairly straightforward, but each one was kind of tantalizing, having not known anything about them. That they're all just horrible. That it was
They
kind
are
of
all
initially,
horrible.
it
Like,
was
QR
initially-
codes are a huge waste of time, but we
It was
throw them on
initi-
everything.
it was initially tantalizing because I didn't know what treasures might lie down that QR code rabbit hole, and
And
there were
there's equally nothing here right now to your to find as far as like what are you gonna learn on this meme, like on your meme tracker that you don't either know? You're just looking for like, oh, that was a good meme or that was a bad meme. This rabbit hole, you don't need to go down it, Steve. Pull away.
I'm closing my tabs.
I feel like we
Also-
need to have an intervention. And by I feel like we should, or we're having, by feel like we should, I mean we already are in the middle of.
Like, I closed everything. I'll go back to 4chan, like I was doing
Okay.
before.
Thank you.
Don, you
4chan's
were a
a-
better person when you didn't go into the memes.
Yeah, I think
See,
I think it,
I don't like the memes. I just get fascinated by the history of all this stuff, you know? I-
history of the internet and all that.
Yeah, well, because people like to pretend it's important. The internet is just bullshit. It's just a giant fire hose of diarrhea. But everyone
Yes.
treats it seriously. The one thing I like about all this garbage is that it reminds you it really is garbage. The internet is a big garbage. There's almost nothing good about it, you know? And the stuff that is good about it is stuff that basically exists on top of existing sort of paradigms of communication, right? Like this. I like this. We're sitting and talking, you know?
Mhm.
That's cool. But we're not in the same place. That's interesting. But any of like social media or news stuff, it's just garbage. Like today, a guy got mad at me on Twitter because I was excited or sort of surprised by something, and all I typed was "what" in all caps, like, "What is this?" And one of the people in the thread doesn't speak English, and he got real mad that I was like his friend might think I was threatening him. It's like, no offense, if your friend gets threatened by the word "what" in all caps, it's like, yeah, screw him. I don't care. So I had to go and mute him. You know, it's like the lack of context, and you have to. Everyone gets real picky. Like all communication is so contextless and degenerate that there's no real ability to
Well, it's
signify.
because
you know.
Twitter is inherently like contextless.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
It is. But you know
I mean-
what? Truthfully, so's for the most part, so's Facebook, so's all this stuff. Right? Social media is just garbage. Social media is awful. I just want to toss it out. The only
social media
I've
isn't
ever
going
found-
away though. I mean, I have students who literally take hundreds of selfies a day. Like this isn't going away. They are becoming more narcissistic, not less narcissistic as the internet sticks around longer.
Yeah, and it's awful. Yeah, I mean, it's awful. But that's just how things are going to go for a while, right? I mean, everybody's crawling up their own butts. It's awful.
Mhm.
You know?
That's how I know I'm an old man. I don't even hardly go on the internet.
See, I'm on
Isn't
here.
it strange? Like that's the one thing I realized once I had a real job. Like I stopped being a college student, which hasn't been that long in the grand scheme of things. But how much less like things like the internet matter to you when you have, like obviously for Steve, you know, you are a programmer. You are always on
Right.
the computer.
We're-
You're gonna
I'm
have
all-
your life is different than Porkcop.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean you have to go to 4chan and Reddit every 10 seconds.
I don't go to Reddit.
I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying, but people, you know what I mean? These,
Yeah.
you know, I could tell you this. I've never been on either one of those sites because I have no reason to.
See, I like
Yeah.
4chan because 4chan is a website that understands what the internet really is. It's one of the only honest websites. I'm sitting here looking at my LinkedIn, which is another site I use regularly, which actually has a utility, you know. But for the most part, like all the stuff is like information. Remember information superhighway when we were kids? It's like it's
Yeah.
going to be the information superhighway, right? Or like Wikipedia. Like Wikipedia pretends that it's important. You know, it pretends like it really is like it's a good thing. when really it's for the most part a bunch of articles about just garbage, right? You know? But 4chan doesn't pretend that it's anything other than a cesspit. And I like that about it.
I think the value of the internet is that if you wanted to, you could learn almost anything. The downside of the internet is that's not how most people use it.
No, the internet for the most part
if you wanted to learn how, if Porkchop wanted to go out and learn how to build a car from scratch, he could probably put together the materials and find that in instructions on how to do that online. And he could probably effectively build a car from scratch if that was what you chose to do with your free time.
Right.
But that's not how people use the internet. That's not how you're using the internet. Nor do you have any inclination to build a car from scratch because you have a perfectly functional car that you already have.
Who? Me?
Porkchop.
Oh, yeah, because I don't have a car. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You have no money, so obviously
I sold my car.
Yes.
We understand. No, I understand. Yeah, no, I know exactly where you're coming from. And see, to be honest, that's how I use the internet. I use the internet two ways. One is I do talk to people over Skype, Mumble, and I do play games over it. But that's more of a, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's entertainment, but that's more of just that's my social, networking.
This is what you would have been if 30 years ago. This would be your bowling time, or
yes,
however you would have spent your social parts of your life.
But I don't get bored and go, you know what? I'm bored. I'm gonna get on the internet and go look up stupid memes or any of that stuff. I'm not saying that they're all stupid. I'm just saying, but I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, I just don't go spend my time doing that. But if I do want something, I'm not afraid to go on the internet to look it up. On what but I take it every day with a grain of salt when I get on the internet. Not every person out there, is telling you the right thing, and you've got to figure out which is the right and which is the wrong.
Well, not everyone is working in your best interest either. It's the other part of it.
Right. So, I mean, it's, I'm not saying the internet is bad, but I get this. I'm just not a social media type of guy. Yes, I am on Twitter, and I do check it, but mostly because I just want to make. But
well, and that was where I was making the point earlier. It's like, now that I have a regular job, I'm not online during the day. I don't need I'm working, and when I'm working, I'm not being outraged by some bullshit that oh my god, it's also made me a lot less political too, because I don't read all the outrage politics sites anymore either. I mean, I'll glance at, a couple of news sites and kind of get a sense of what happened in a given day. But overall, most of the time, it's I come home, I do my thing, I hang out, I read, I catch up on the news, maybe I'll play a game or watch some TV, and then I go to bed. There's nothing, it's not an extremely exciting life, but at the same time, it's also... There's nothing wrong with it either. I've always kind of been of a mentality of, people always want to have interesting stories. And interesting stories are good. But interesting stories also generally mean that shit's going wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah. No, there's no story.
Let me tell you,
there's no story that goes, everything was perfect. No, it's all about bad things and then coming out of it alive.
Yeah.
That's what interesting stories are.
And that's good, but the fact that I have a ton of interesting stories from my life just generally means that I've been fairly lucky in the sense that I've had either the good sense or the good luck not to put myself into a lot of bad situations.
I haven't, but recently I have. I mean, when I hit 30, I was pretty much put all that past behind me. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And that's not to say yeah. What were you going to say, Steve?
My life these last few years has been real interesting, and I'd prefer it were not.
You prefer it to be dull again.
Mm-hmm. I miss the days of being a dull old guy that goes in and cashes it, goes in and punches the clock and sits at his desk and works and punches his clock and goes home, drinks.
Quietly hates your job.
Hating myself as I surf the internet and loathe for 2 hours before going to bed. Yes. My life now's real exciting, and it's fun.
Yeah, and you know,
it's balanced. I go nuts. I go nuts when stuff is real bland. You know, because truthfully, I don't have a personality that does well with constant routine. It's just long-term unpredictability gets tiring. You know, even living in a hotel was tiring for me, not knowing that I wouldn't know exactly what room I was going to be in every week.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like that seems like it wouldn't be a big deal because I'm going to the same hotel, but they just book different rooms. Even that got to be just draining. It's like, what room I am in 115? Okay. It's just all this, even the little stuff, let alone everything else. It's just why I kind of quit. It's kind of cool. I just kind of checked out for a while. Like I was working my contract work remotely after all the crazy stuff hit me all at once, and I moved back in here. And then those kind of blew up because they were just fighting me over money. Because truthfully, I just didn't do proper paperwork and kind of due diligence on my end to guarantee everything was lined up. You know, because they screwed me over, mind you, but I let them.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because I was too trusting. And I just kind of after that, I'm like, you know what? I'm like out like $2,500 total from these two people, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just gonna. This is November. I remember I worked an all-nighter over Halloween. I didn't see any of my family. Next day, I quit. I blocked them from all my social media. Quit answering phone calls from them. It's like, you're not paying me. I'm not working for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not on a salary. I'm not obligated to work for you if you're not paying me. And after that, I just sat down and spent 2 weeks playing Fallout New Vegas. And you might think, oh, well, what else did you do? I did nothing but play Fallout New Vegas. I woke up, turned it on, and played it till bed for like a week. And then everything was cool. And then everything was cool. And everything was cool. And after that, it's just, I started working on my own stuff. But seriously, just too much drama, too much of this stuff, too much of an exciting life. Sucks. On the other hand, I was thinking lately I would like to do something real, like, athletically kind of fun I haven't done, like surf or like rock climbing or something, or go caving. But, you know, that's different. That's just like a fun or kind of exciting hobby. It's like drama? Yeah, I don't really want drama. You know? Life was real dramatic for those people in that plane crashed into the mountain. You know what I mean? That's big time drama. I don't want any of that.
Well, at least for the last couple of seconds when that pilot was taking the axe to the door, then it was kind of over with, but...
That's some crazy stuff. But
yeah.
You know,
people are evil. People are nuts.
Well, you think about it, though, realistically. Like, okay, how many flights fly a day? A lot. How many pilots are there? A lot. How many times has this happened in the, the course of, 100 years of aviation? Not that many times. Statistically speaking, the chances of your co-pilot going crazy and crashing your plane to the ground, they're pretty low.
Yeah, the last deliberate crash I heard about was a few years ago, and it was an African plane. Yeah, I don't know. Like, so for plane travel, I like airplanes a lot, even though I don't fly that often. And when I do, it's usually because stuff is real exciting in my life, so not the most fun. But I was terrified of airplanes. I was so terrified. One of the first times I flew, I actually had a panic attack when I landed. About an hour later, it was so bad I went to the hospital. Like, I actually became dissociated, which is a real bizarre experience, incidentally, I don't recommend. But you can actually just get so freaked out, your brain just kind of shuts down. And, like, you'd see stuff, but your brain wouldn't process it. It's sort of like if I take my glasses off and stuff looks blurry. It was kind of like that, but it was my brain. Like, I just couldn't latch on to stuff. And then I slept it off. I mean, it's not like anything permanent, but that's how bad of a panic attack I had. I just dissociated. I just was not in the room with myself. But, just terrified of flying in airplanes. And I just sat down and read about them, until I was just convinced they were okay. And then I had to fly a few times to calm down. But one thing I learned during this research period is you're good as long as you're flying airlines in North America and Europe. I would never fly a Russian airline or an African airline. Knowing these things. Middle Eastern airlines are kind of depends. Latin America kind of
depends on if you're flying out of Dubai or not, probably.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. If you're out of Dubai, you're cool. But then it's like Asian airlines are the real interesting ones, especially Chinese airlines, because they need so many flights, they don't adequately train their pilots. like their pilots are just not trained to the same standards as North America and Europe. And this isn't true for all Asian airlines, but Chinese airlines. And they frequently just put this stuff on autopilot and just take it and just send it out.
I guess that was the problem a couple of years ago.
When that one just autopiloted right through a massive thunderstorm.
Well, there was an autopilot that like the radar, like the autopilot, the runway was miscalibrated where the runway was. It's off by like 30 feet or something, but it was enough that they landed in the wrong place and crashed the plane.
Yeah, like they really their pilots are for the most part very undertrained. It's just take it off, put it on autopilot. When stuff goes, that's fine until stuff goes wrong.
This goes back to our original conversation. See, this is what I do because I'm a moderator here, and in the lead host. We talked about automation, automated trucking. I mean, when Porkchop's pointing kind of like you need an operator to some degree, but how much do you need an operator? Airlines have shown us that even highly automated things, stuff still goes wrong. And airlines, you can get away with it to some degree because there are so few, relatively speaking, airplanes. But you start dealing with trucks, you're like, I don't know. It seems like you're never going to totally get rid of the operator, just like in airplanes. And airplanes, there are other reasons not to get rid of operators because you don't want your plane to fly through that thunderstorm, even though it knows it probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, and this is the thing, and I think maybe you misconstrued what I was saying originally, is that I believe very much we'll have operators for this stuff. It's just over time, the number of them is going down as the systems become more robust and the infrastructure becomes more robust, right?
What I would expect to happen is that you basically have like a operator for a fleet of trucks, like maybe
exactly,
kind of like you're basically like a train almost.
Exactly.
The lead truck has a driver who basically is primarily in charge of both monitoring and repairing, these, 5 or 6 trucks, and basically.
But we're still losing people overall in terms of the number of people employed, which is kind of the general point. Which is, totally, people aren't disappearing. The problem is that the number of people are being removed, and especially people that are doing jobs that are what would be considered sort of entry-level, grunt-level work, simple work. That stuff is for the most part going away, except in cases where it's cheaper to hire people, right? So like, hiring a bunch of seasonal migrant workers out in California is not going to get automated away because your machines aren't going to be.
But I mean, there's also people are also highly flexible. I'm thinking of, like in China, there was an article a while ago how it's cheaper to hire a single person to tear down a building brick by brick than it is to hire basically a full-fledged construction crew to do it. Because a full-fledged construction crew, like they bring in the machinery and try to tear it down, you have all these permits. You have a single guy doing it brick by brick. It'll take forever. But your cost, other than the time cost of it not being done in a hurry, your costs are actually significantly lower, and you don't have to deal with as much. And the more important part is you don't have to deal with the bureaucratic red tape.
Yeah, but that's the consequence of cheapness of labor too, right?
Yes,
that's not going to fly.
But that's what happens though when people become replaced by robots. I mean, people are still going to want to work. I mean, a certain percentage of the population.
True.
I don't know.
True.
I
don't think you're going to be able to get them tearing down buildings brick by brick, though. I think that's.
Well, some people will. Some people will, and some people won't. I mean, that's kind of the nature of some people think they're above that. I don't know. I don't know if we have all the answers, and I think this is one of those growing pains society is going to feel pretty hard when it happens. And I think this also goes to a larger kind of like loss of. Like, who fills most of the jobs we talk about? Like men, right? Men are the ones who, I think, it's the men in the modern sense of things are the ones who are going to really, like, have to, like, reestablish what defines the modern man. Is it going to be, it's not just going to be backbreaking labor anymore. You're going to have to do something else. It's not going to be driving a truck. It's not going to be moving, it might be construction, because construction is I think there'll still be some demand for construction and people actually doing that, because I think it'll be hard to automate construction, or at least, like, building a lot of houses and things like that. But then again, maybe not. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I guess
Yeah,
prefab.
I got no answers. I'm not.
I don't either. No, I don't either.
not-
That's why we discuss it.
This is true. Well, sometimes there isn't always answers to these things, and that's kind of the fun of it.
There's always an answer. My answer's always right,
Oh,
but nobody ever listens to them.
well, fair enough. Fair enough.
Scott Adams will write Dilbert's. He writes Dilbert. He has this what he calls as a one-question IQ test, which is I forget the exact phrasing, but it's how confident do you feel in your opinions, roughly, or how many things about the world around you do you feel like you understand? And the lower the number, the higher the IQ. It's like there are no answers. For a lot of this stuff, the more you just have to be comfortable with ambiguity.
Well, and that goes to kind of modern science. Like modern science, would tell you we understand everything unless you actually ask, and then they'd say, "Well, we don't actually really understand." Like I've been reading up on dark matter this week.
Yeah, what is that? No one even knows.
No, well, and there's been a couple of new studies that say, well, do we really have a good understanding of dark matter? And the real answer is no. We have absolutely no idea what this is. And to me, it says, I don't know, I've come to the conclusion we have a fundamental misunderstanding of the universe. Yeah, and that's not to say there isn't some sort of force going on here. But, something is obviously causing, like, this gravitational lensing to occur. And we can figure out about how much effort is being applied there. But it doesn't does it make sense that there's a magical, if I were to tell you there's a magical material that doesn't interact with anything, can't ever be seen, but it's totally making up 90% of the universe, you tell me no, probably not. And I tell you then you tell me this is what scientists have been basically trying to prove for 50 years with absolutely no luck. And you'd say, really? Has it been that long? It's like, yeah. And then, and then they'll sort of like, well, we know what dark energy is. Like, well, there's really never that big of a ambiguity about dark energy. Dark energy just kind of gets thrown together with dark matter because they both have dark in them. They're completely different things. Like the whole dark matter thing is a much bigger problem to modern science than it is to dark energy. It's like, yeah, it's just the vacuum energy of the universe. That's just, there's nothing really, it's not that it's unspecial, it's just there wasn't nearly as big a question about it. It hasn't lingered near as long. So,
I actually brought this up. I actually brought basically your points up to somebody, and I said, it's almost turning into religion. Trying to prove something that can't be proven. Yeah.
There's a certain, there is real effects that are being observed. Like we know that if our understanding of the gravity works the way it is, which is why I think our fundamental understanding is broken in some way, that we are rotating far too fast around the center of the galaxy for the amount of mass that should be there, like the visible mass of the universe. And we know, based on like gravitational lensing, from how much gravity, we know gravitational lensing is a real thing, because basically a more massive object, the more it'll bend the space around it. So light will go around it. We see things that are behind the sun because the sun has a mass, and that therefore it bends the light behind it, and therefore we can see things behind the sun. Even though we shouldn't be able to see it if the universe wasn't being bent in some way. So what are we done? What are we not understanding? I guess it's the larger question. And we don't know. I mean, and I think some of this is our experimental understanding of, we need more like really big, collider kind of physics to get a better understanding of these things. And a lot of it's just our experimental physics is kind of hitting a wall here on Earth, and we need to get out there and make more direct observations of the universe.
Agreed.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Agreed. No, it's not. It is what it isn't.
It is what it isn't. No, dark matter is what it isn't. Dark. It's we have all these huge, very expensive experiments, trying to find WIMPs and things like that. It's like highly interactive, molecules. Like, yeah, no, not so much. It's just not going to happen. So, I don't know. Not like I have any better answers. It's just, I look at the history of science. The history of science is built out of all these theories, like resistance to tectonic plates and things like that, where, the reason why tectonic plate theory didn't become widely accepted until the 50s is basically people were just that embedded with the, theories before it. And once everyone died, or had been drummed out of academia, then tectonic theory was allowed to finally blossom. And it's widely, even before it was accepted in the 50s, I think there was enough evidence to prove that it was true. It wasn't accepted. And that's the way it was. And, should we accept these things? I don't know. Science is often shown to be a very slow behemoth when it's coming to accepting new theories.
Oh, that's very correct.
Mm-hmm. And especially
but that's the problem, is when a new theory comes up, it comes up so fast sometimes, and that you have, the scientific community feels like it has to be wrong.
Well, and there's always
breakthroughs just come through, and they.
Well, and good science says that, okay, you have an outrageous claim, outrageous in the sense of that it's, contrary to what we are currently know. You have an outrageous claim, and, okay, we need someone else to do basically what you did and reproduce that experiment. Okay, now they've done it and they've come to a similar conclusion. Now we can say, okay, now because it has repeatability, we can then say, what are the conclusions of this, and then apply that, to our understanding. It's just that, that takes time. Legitimately, it does take, if this was a 2 or 3 year experiment, it took you 2 to 3 years to conduct it. It's going to take probably that long for the next person to conduct it. Then you have to have a consensus. It's intentionally slow, and it's, it can't really be sped up either a lot of times.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying that as people goes, we're very,
but people are often just also really
entrenched.
But people are also very entrenched to accept new things too, because they have and that's where I think we're with string theory. And Dunn, you might be better placed to speak of this than I am, but I feel like string theory is just what's your feelings on string theory? Because I feel like it's kind of one of those theories that's it was a vogue theory that's kind of lost favor.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. But I'm not a physicist, so
yeah, you're well read though. So
yeah, it seems like a really interesting theoretical notion that needs more experimental evidence to back it. Ultimately, it seems a little too good.
Why is it? Why?
It just seems a bit too clean, theoretically. It seems more. I don't know. Something about it doesn't seem right to me.
That's part of the problem is they can't find.
Matter. They just need proof.
Well, that's the thing, is they can't find any. All the experiments they're doing is just not.
Isn't really proven a whole lot.
It hasn't proved anything.
The really deep string theory stuff.
Yeah, that's my ultimate feeling is.
We have a lot of very prominent astrophysicists or theoretical physicists that are propagating the theory, not really because it's seems like they've proven a lot with it, but because they're prominent theoretical physicists, and this is what they do. I'm a theoretical physicist. I specialize in string theory. This is the problem with very specialized scientific models: is that you make people irrelevant, they don't go away. And so they're just going to keep putting things out.
Yeah. I agree. But at the same time, I try not to be too dismissive of these things, because these people are obviously educated in what they do, and I'm not a trained physicist.
Yeah.
I'm a guy that's good at math, but I never really, I couldn't sit down and do E&M equations or anything like that. But
E&M equations are overrated.
But I'm not a physics guy.
Vector math is such a bitch.
See that I'm really
about vector and math.
Yeah, I can do the vector math, and I can do all the linear algebra and stuff. But I'm just saying, it's not my field, so I don't want to be
You're ahead of me then.
I don't want to be dismissive of what people do in a field that it's not my own. But
yeah.
But in physics, ultimately, it's a question of does that match the experimental data. And the worst are cases of things where either it can't be tested or the experiments are just too far technologically advanced to be testable. In that case, it seems like a waste of energy to invest too much time into a theory, when you could invest into notions that are testable, but who knows? People keep doing what they do, and that's just an argument within the physics community. I'm back here. My view of the world is fairly non-committal. It gets more so as I get older. I don't really believe anything, but that's not true because that would imply some kind of like nihilistic thing. It's more like I accept that there's lots of possible interpretations of things, and it's better to be open and accept multiple interpretations at the same time. Sometimes even situational as well. I mean, sometimes you just get more traction out of a certain perspective at a certain time. But yeah, for this stuff, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, at the end of the day, none of them are right. I mean, we kind of know that.
the whole thing that all scientific theory will eventually be replaced with new scientific theories.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of things that I feel I have doubts about, right, and questions about. We've talked about some of this before, but yeah, it just is what it is. I don't know. I try to keep from getting too invested in it. But that's just me. I don't know. And not to sound wishy-washy. It's just kind of with everything anymore. I try to stay uninvested and try to stay objective and dispassionate about stuff. Yeah, I wish we could just build a spaceship, though. That would be cool.
It'd be a rocket.
Just give me an FTL drive.
Yeah.
That has more practical stuff, has more immediate appeal to me than sort of some of the deep theoretical stuff. But
well, I mean, I that's what I want is I want us to get off this rock, and I want us to start like spreading out so that if everyone wants to do their own things, people can just do their own things, and we can just get away from obviously there'll always be people here with different self-interest in different groups, but if the Amish want to go set up, ride a rocket ship to some barren plot of ground and basically just and then, have the rocket take off and never see them again, they can do that. And, you have some group of people who want to, go crazy with genetic experiments and do all their stuff. Let them do it. I mean, there's no why. I don't know. At some point, I think, we don't need to. We can all do our own thing and just be happy and get away from. I miss the frontier. I think we were a lot happier situation when there was the central government and there was a frontier where people could get away from it. And as
by the way, Baroness is right. Amish can't ride in a spaceship.
Well,
they get Earth by default. They have to fight it over with like Hasidic Jews and what other groups can't get in spaceships.
So we knock them out, and so you'd have one evil Amish guy who would knock out his entire compatriots and basically ship them off to a different planet.
That's like Vault-Tec level kind of evil. To be like, let's just put the Amish and wake them up and they're in a high-tech environment and they have to use it or die. What happens?
No, well, you'd have a holodeck there, and they would think they were still on their farm. And then they'd wake up a couple weeks later, and they would be on a different planet, and they wouldn't realize it. I think this is the plot to Star Trek Insurrection.
Yeah, I was starting to think this is a Star Trek. But I'll tell you though, while we're on the subject of spaceships, if you want to talk about like weird stuff people believe in, I very much believe that aliens have visited Earth. Just saying.
Okay, so explain your theory here.
The aliens?
Well, no, not like xenomorphs. Not like the stuff that have the mouth in the mouth and have chests.
No, you said the aliens. You're saying only one alien? species
No, I
or
might have.
multiple? I'm asking.
I probably misspoke because I'm reading a 4chan thread.
That's
of
right.
this-
I'm just asking. I want
The point
clarification.
is, um, I think that there is evidence that aliens have visited Earth.
Okay.
That's just all I'm saying, and that the visits have been there have been multiple visits. I believe that the Roswell crash was most likely a spaceship. Just saying, we all have weird stuff we believe in, and I have a lot, but but most of it I don't really talk about publicly. This is what I'll talk about publicly.
Okay.
Is I think that spaceship crashed at Roswell, and it was it was an alien craft, and I'm not going to say I believe in the gray aliens with the big eyes or any of this other goofy stuff or the face on Mars people or the ancient aliens people. I'm not making any sort of claim
There's
about,
clearly not a face on Mars, by the way, for anyone who actually believes it. But
the people they believe like Cydonia and stuff, and all the like what Richard Hoagland.
Richard, yeah. Oh God, I loved Richard Hoagland. He was he was
he's
such a big believer in it, or at least he
he's
sold it
almost
really well.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm not tossing in with any of these people. I'm not tossing in with like Stephen Greer and the Disclosure Movement.
No Alex Jones for you.
No Alex Jones, so he doesn't really do much with the UFOs. But I'm not into the FEMA coffins either. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to put myself out as a kook. I'm just saying, I think there really is evidence that, and what is, I think is quite possible, is aliens were coming by, something happened, their ship crashed. Crashed in the U.S. by coincidence. We found it. We locked it down. It's a national security concern. We locked it up. And, stories have come in ever since that have turned into a whole big, weird mythology. But I'm just saying. And that doesn't strike me as being in any way sort of implausible.
The more I'm away from the conspiracy culture, the more I don't necessarily believe a lot of it. But at the same time, like when I was into that culture and I was neck deep in like Coast to Coast AM and all the the unsolved mysteries and programs like that. Oh, I really loved, like, I don't know, that you look at some of it does feel like maybe there was something that happened. I mean, I think we should be at least open to it, but at the same time, like, is there if there is direct evidence, it's either being kept secret or, we haven't found it yet, which I think is, the problematic part of it. And even if we did, and there's always been this thing like, well, if the government keeps it secret because, they don't think the American public can handle it. I always think the government keeps it secret because nobody would believe them anyways.
Well, I mean, I just assume that if this really is there, they keep it secret because of concerns about national security, right? I mean,
probably.
I mean,
we've shown such well, that's the other part of it, right? We've shown such an amazing ability to keep our national security secret. We have the frickin' Secretary of State doing national security stuffing off her private email server. Like, yeah, I'm willing to put every other country in the world knows exactly what was sent through that server.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Look, I'm not trying to claim it's perfect, right? But on the other hand, I mean, the government still can keep secrets, right? I mean,
you hope so.
I mean,
I think they've definitely they can keep secrets through ignorance, which I think is what we've seen a lot during the Obama administration.
I understand there's all kinds of like experimental aircraft, experimental weaponry, all this sort of stuff we don't know about.
I
There's
think
a reason we have multiple levels of clearance.
We don't know about some of it because people who are invested in the American national security choose not to talk about it. Like, I know there are people who have access to those files who shouldn't have access to it, but because they know they know it would hurt America to talk about it publicly, they choose not to. Like, there are certain kind of like you look at like Long War Journal, which is a site that talks about like what's going on in the Middle East, and they try very hard to only use public sources of information. For a fact they have access to both people and files that are non-public, of different degrees of classification.
Mhm.
But they choose not to use that, those levels of information because they don't want to hurt their sources. B, they also know a lot of cases revealing that information is not going to save them. Or not save them, but it's not good for the country or save us, just
Mhm.
more accurately. And so I think, we have to assume that we're going to be. I think that if there were really alien technology, someone would be talking about it, and more so than the kind of like random people you get talking about it right now.
Oh yeah, most of the people are just nuts.
Mhm.
They're just people that are just. I mean, they're mostly just crazies or attention whores and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, no, that's why I'm not trying to toss in with any of this stuff. I'm not trying to claim make any broader claims. But
Mhm.
I just find it.
I mean, I think
I find there's just. It seems like there's enough smoke that makes me think something happened, and I'm deliberately trying to avoid big conspiracy. I'm trying to avoid
And I could believe, like, if you want to
weird
say,
stuff.
like, at an evolutionary point in the history of Earth, like, some alien came along and said, hey, this planet has life. Okay, what kind of life is it gonna evolve here? Hey, we like these species more than this species. We're gonna give this one a little bit of a kick in the butt, and, we're gonna discourage something else. Like, I could believe that happened.
Well, oddly, I'm kind of tempted to believe that they visited before, just from some of these weird alien-like motifs in art. But again, that puts me too close into Giorgio Tsoukalos territory.
But at
So I
the
kinda
same point,
step
if you
back.
assume, we started at one point, there's a high likelihood of long-term monitoring that would
For
take
sure,
place. Like,
I just don't think it's crazy to believe that there are other creatures, advanced creatures in the universe.
but this goes
and
back
that
to my
they're
earlier point
close
of
enough.
that I don't think there are that many advanced civilizations in our neighborhood because if
We don't know. It's zero data points, really, right?
well, yes and no though. I mean, okay, look at
If we're here,
so if
somebody else.
okay, so look at the kind of
One
radiation we
off
see in the
view.
universe. The kind of radiation we see in the universe is background noise for the most part. Gamma rays, stuff like this, like made from what we understand are natural phenomena. So maybe there's like more advanced form of communication and we don't know. Maybe there's quantum quantum pairing or something like that, which we would not be able to listen in on if it was out there. But if there were other alien civilizations of say there existed for a couple hundred years, there should be TV and radio and audio radiation because coming at us. There's something in the universe, like because our signals are all going out there and going crazy. There are 100 years of human, like we just not see any of it, and the lack of it just strikes me to mean that that's not to say it doesn't exist in our solar or our galaxy or even in the universe. I just don't know if there's that. I don't think it's like is life common. I actually think life is probably relatively common. Is intelligent life that's capable of interstellar travel common? Even just getting off the planet. I mean, look how much trouble we have getting off the planet. And we've had the ability to enter space for, over 50 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
I'm not claiming it's easy.
I'm just saying that
No.
I'm just not seeing. There's just not enough there yet to really convince me that we live in this, super dense part of space where there are all these species out there. I think if we could probably travel, like, are there Earth-like planets? Are there other planets with bacteria and maybe even wildlife? Sure, I can believe that, but other intelligent species, or I don't know. And, intelligent species also assumes a certain, like, look at the history of Earth and look at how long, if you visited Earth, anything except for the past, 10,000 years, you wouldn't have seen a whole heck of a lot going on around here either.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I'm still debating if there's any intelligence anywhere, even on Earth.
That's an old joke, too, so.
I know. I'm just teasing.
I know, I'm not, and the Michio Kaku thing always talks about like types of civilization. You know, a type 0 civilization, which is we are, is, you know, something that can harness, you know, basically low level fossil fuel kind of perception. A level 2 civilization, a level 1 civilization is basically the power of a planet, like an entire system. A type 2 civilization would be the power of stars. A type 3 civilization would be the power of galaxies. Like, we have no concept what those, like maybe a type 1 civilization we can kind of imagine. A type 2, I mean, 2 or 3 types of civilization, how would those even function? We can't even comprehend those things. So if those things exist and they're out there, you know, would we notice them or not? Probably not. But then, or do you continue being like a sentient, you know, bipedal species at that point, or are you, you know, some kind of energy-based species that just exists as consciousness? Like, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Not well beyond. I don't either. Okay, though, but I think I'm getting tired, and I think we are coming to a natural conclusion with our alien talk. So, yeah. So if you want to follow the show, of course, we are FarfieldCast on Twitter. Mr. Alvarado fell out, but if you want to support him or his art, you should go check out Alvarado_Scott. Steven, how can people get a hold of you?
Twitter, that's about it.
What's your Twitter handle?
Flying Cars Kill.
Yeah. Which is the best Twitter. Which is the best Twitter handle ever.
That's about all I got going for me, but I got something.
It is amazing.
But it used to be Stephen Dunn, and then I changed it. Truthfully, I was bored with my Twitter handle, and then I was thinking, and then I was drinking, and then I had this. It just came to me in just a flash. It had to be.
And what about you, Porkcop?
Oh, you can find me at Flying Car Skill. It's really similar.
You son of a whore.
No, I'm at Porkchop, Hawaii.
Excellent. And you should check out the other fine shows here at RivalCast Media, you know, like Ghost in the Podcast, which shows up every Sunday night, and the RivalCast, which was on before us, and there's WoW Uncensored and Cheap Moon, and there's BGM, and On Tap, which is every Friday night, which I was on 2 Fridays ago. Yeah, it was not yesterday, but so you should check out that. I think that's episode 6.
I keep meaning to tune in to Ghost in the Podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I like Ghosts.
It's usually Sunday afternoons about 4 our time.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's all I got. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye,
Bye, everybody.
Yep, 73's people.